Hi, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unique Peace. Today, I'm excited to welcome Nick Girard. He is the author of In the Beginning. In the Beginning is an interesting take, a little twist on like the story of Genesis, the dynamic between God and Lucifer and how things went down. And maybe God isn't the nicest person we think he is or almighty entity. So it was interesting to get an interesting take on that. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Nick to the show. Good morning, Nick.
Yes, good morning.
Good
Thanks
morning.
for having me. This is great. Excited.
Excited as well.
We got a good
So,
show.
as I noted, you wrote a book,
Yeah.
and so kind of take us on that journey of what
Yeah,
inspired you to write a book where you, like, twist things on its head a little bit.
sure. I kinda walk you through the inspiration of it. So, yeah, it's you said it very well when you were explaining it just now. So, yeah, it's a very, like a reversal of the traditional beliefs that humanity possesses for heaven and hell. Challenge to God and traditional thinking. So, what inspired me is I love that question. So, uh, my inspiration really kind of started with my wife. So I kind of took her. I'm a big fan of the female lead. Took her kind of, I guess, lead in this life, and the more I kind of took her lead, the more empathetic I became. So I started, and when you become empathetic, you start not just sympathizing with people, but putting yourself in their shoes, trying to understand how they feel. And the more I empathized, the more I wanted peace on this planet. The more, I mean, I'd always wanted peace, but the more more empathetic I tried to evolve into, the more I thought about it, and I just kept doing that, and that pushed me to want to make a difference. And in my life, I work in the financial industry, which I cannot stand. We'll probably get to that in a second with the book. But I do it for a purpose, like I have to pay the
We all have
bills.
bills to pay, so
Exactly. I kind of am trying to get out of it for a while, but I was kind of hope you don't mind me going into this right away. So maybe a little forward, but I graduated with a lot of student loan debt, and I had to just get into a job right away to start paying that debt. And it was,
been there.
yeah, it's soul crushing. You're doing something that you feel trapped, and that's how I started feeling. Just trapped, like I can't get out of this. I see I'm at work, and I see all these, the television's playing at work, and you see all the horrible headlines across the globe, and you're sitting there, you're punching these keys on the keyboard for what purpose, and I felt worthless. I felt I wanted to do something, I felt like I couldn't do anything. I was limited by how much money I have and my position really in society. I couldn't do anything. So I started. That's why I like that you brought me on your show, because I know you were big about channeling energy.
Yes.
And so my wife kind of introduced me to that too. And I just started, I had all this like really powerful energy. It was so negative, I was like, I can't, what's happening to the planet? I can't stand that humans don't believe in equality. It was troubling me. It was terrible. And I started just thinking about that energy and trying to channel it and use it. And so that's how my inspiration started. I can kind of go into how it kind of went into writing, if that's is
Yeah,
that
you have a few minutes. Go ahead.
okay?
Mm.
So then I started, like, my wife got me this little journal, and this is when we were in New York City, and I would write little like blurbs of hey Michael, what's up? Hi Michael. Michael's saying hello to us. Good to see you. It's great to be with Janice. This is really cool. Um, so yeah, and I talked to Michael about this too, but I would be on the train home on the subway from work, and I would just started pouring my emotions into this little journal I had, like with like just pen and paper. And it's kind of hard to write in the subway in New York. It's basically impossible.
It's basically impossible.
It's too crowded. So I would write little tiny things. I couldn't do that much. And so then when we moved down to New York, we were in Philadelphia, I would take the train to work, and there's no one on the subway in Philadelphia. You have plenty of space, like you can get a seat. And so then I started writing. And so after work, I would be really upset, depressed, and like into this like chasm I couldn't get out of. And so I started taking that energy of how I hated what was going on in the world, my inability to help people, and took that into writing. And so I would like just pour my emotion in on the train home. and it started just building. And so that's how I wrote my first draft of this book. It's like all written out in like these crazy lines on these journals I have.
As a fellow
I'm like,
writer, I totally
"Oh,
what you're saying makes
yeah,
complete and utter sense. It's
yes,
like, it's all gonna make sense that you don't look at that. That's kinda like, don't look at the man behind the curtain.
yeah,
So I totally understand.
yeah." And it felt, and it, I started thinking like it felt good. I could just like, I just kind of flipped the switch. I was like, I have to do something. And so then I started just, the story started coming out of me of this fictional tale about how perhaps how God is allowing the suffering events in life and how we shouldn't worship. And I know this what I'm saying is a little blasphemous, so I respect your listeners. I respect you. I don't want to offend anyone, so I know it's kind of a controversial topic. But that's how I created the story, and I just kept going with it. And then over like I'd say 2 years or so of riding on the subway and riding on the weekends at home, it just finally got completed. I would like write in. I like to write in nature. I would just kind of sit there in this little hammock under this tree in our backyard, and I would just pour everything I felt out into it. And it finally just like a snowball, just gained momentum, and I just kept on doing it. And finally, I got this finished work, which took quite a while. But as you know, as a writer, like it's basically it's really hard to write when you work full time
It is.
because you have to have pure focus and uninterrupted focus. So I would do it on like Saturdays and Sundays and just sit in like a little uncomfortable chair and uncomfortable on purpose, so I wouldn't like take a nap.
Yeah, 'cause
You know?
it's really easy to try and fall
Yeah.
asleep,
Yeah.
so
And so that, I mean, that's a kind of a long-winded answer, sorry, but,
no
um,
worries.
yeah, that's how I started, that's inspiring, but that's why I like listening to your episodes, is that, and actually one of the, I wrote a note from the one you had with Michael when he said, um, finds peace in creativity.
Yeah,
Like, that's what I started doing too, and it even though the emotion I had when I was writing was, like, really angry, it was like a mix between anger and love. And that's how I kinda write, and it relaxed me in a sense of after I was finished doing it, I'd have all this anger doing it, but when it was over, I was like, "Okay, yeah, yeah, I feel better, I feel like I've accomplished something," and that's, I kinda have started evolving like that, but it took me a while to get to that point, to, like,
point.
see energy that I could use it to do something good. It took me, and that's what I originally had gotten from my wife, is, like, she kinda helped me say like, look, explore your subconscious. You are you. It's not like if you have thoughts that you can't control, you're unfocused, and just, why do I feel this way? Why, what, and just diagnose. And so that's how it all started. But yeah, I'm big into like that. I think females are very, I'd say, very more evolved than a lot of men. And if you take that lead, I think a lot of men should do that. Is just take up the female lead and listen to them, and I think it's a good path for most men. Yeah. Oh, I saw Michael say something. Oh, cool, Michael. Passion, love, hope and gratitude. Well said. You guys are such a good pair. Like, this is so. I hope you don't mind me saying that.
No,
I hope it's okay. I didn't mean to move you forward. But you guys,
absolutely.
yeah, you guys are like. I like the energy you guys have. It's great talking
Thank
to you
you.
guys. Yeah, you're welcome.
So you write this book, it's,
Yeah,
very cathartic. It sounds like the whole process is cathartic. You get in
sure,
touch with where you're at, where you wanna go, kind of like channel it into the story, an
sure.
interesting retelling. But as you're doing that, I'm sure you found some peace and you gravitated to some peace. So
Sure.
I like to ask a couple of questions. First and foremost, how do you define peace?
That's tough. Oh, that's a good one. Okay,
Mhm.
so I guess there is there. So I think there's two forms of peace for me. So I think of peace like on like a big picture Earth level, and one a peace for an internal peace. I guess like, I'm looking for a wrong or right answer, but I guess there isn't.
There
It
isn't
just
one.
depends. Yeah.
There isn't
Yeah,
one.
you're right. Okay. Okay. That makes you feel better. So like I guess the first for world like as the world, that kind of peace is like it's just what I desire. Like I desire world peace, like most of us. That's how
Yeah.
I view peace for all of humanity, really for all the living elements on planet Earth. I want a sounds ridiculous, but it's what I want. I want a utopia. I mean, I know what that means. I'm not I'm a part of reality. I know how difficult that is, but that's what I want. That's how I think of peace for life on planet Earth, or all life in the world, or the universe, whatever. So, and then the second part of peace is my internal peace, and that is something I think I have figured out a little, but it needs a lot of fine tuning. So I find peace in purpose. And that's what I take as in writing. And I guess also I find a peace, and a lot of it has to do with how I manage my like psychology when I get stressed or anxious or depressed, and the internal peace of how I can be peaceful, like when I know that like and tomorrow's a tough day for me because it's Monday, like all of us, and I really can't stand what I do for a living. I can't stand it, but I have to like I'm coming to terms with it, where look, that is reality. I will be there tomorrow. I can do something about that. I can look for a new job. That's what I'm in the process of trying to, get out of the world I am in. But I can't just do it immediately. So I have to
Right.
find peace of like I'm doing this right now. I have to like compartmentalize things. Like okay, tomorrow is tomorrow, but I am going to enjoy today with my wife. We'll sit outside, cook dinner, and I'll sit and read, write something in my journal, and that gets me to a state of like a focus. It's about focus for me. Like sometimes I'll sit there and there's be like a faucet going off of like thoughts in my head, just like churning, and I'm like I'm churning all these thoughts in my head because I'm stressed about tomorrow. I'm stressed about the things I have to do, but that's just part of reality. I just do one thing at a time, and when the next topic comes, I handle that, and then so on and so on. And it's difficult for me to do that. And when I was young, like when I was, maybe in my 20s or something, I really had a hard time thinking about my own subconscious, like, or my own psychology, I guess subconscious too. Like how I was like, I didn't think of myself as one with myself. That I wasn't in, I was always trying to control myself and like, oh, Nick, you did this again. You keep on not being focused. What's wrong with you? I'd beat myself up. And I realized I was like, that's ridiculous. Like I am myself. I am me. like I'm not fighting myself. Like I want to feel this way. I want to be relaxed. I have to put effort into it. I have to confront what is bothering me. And the more I confronted it, the more peaceful I felt. It's really, I guess, I feel like I'm giving you all these long-winded blabbering answers, but
It's all good.
yeah, I mean that's kind of how I view peace, like my internal peace, and as for the world, that's how I kind of think of it. Good question. That's a great conversation. That's tough one.
Yeah,
Hard to
and
find.
what's interesting to try and remember is, I have a teenager. So when we're teenagers, it's very myopic, and we're not always listening to those. We hear you, but we don't listen to you. So when you're talking about your 20s, and at that point, you're really paying attention, because myself included, and that's why 20-year-olds get stressed out, because at 20, you're supposed to be go,
Yeah,
go, go, and you're gonna have it all, and you're taking on the world, and by the time you're 30, the world is falling apart. I think we're having our
yeah,
midlife crisis a
yeah,
little earlier than our ancestors, because it's like we went from, "Yeah, we know it all," to, "Oh, we can do it all," to the reality is, I'm a shambles.
yeah. And reality is living in the present, like you described it, is extremely difficult. Your own personal journey, but everything that goes on in the world, you're just like you feel awful sometimes. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's hard dealing with
and
reality.
reality sucks sometimes.
It
We
does. It really does.
understand.
Yeah, trying to manage it and walk through it and think about your own life because you don't want to be short-sighted. I try not to be short-sighted. You just think of, oh, this is just my life and whatever I need to do today to make some money and do this, save for this, and not think about the big picture of the whole world. Like when you start doing that, like
It's a lot.
yeah, it really is. It's hard for me to manage that in my head.
So, as you learn to manage that, you're in your 20s and you're just trying to not have an existential crisis, but we all do. Let's just face
Yeah,
it, we all have at some point our existential crisis.
yeah,
Um,
natural.
so sometimes we have many, but let's just focus on one at a time.
Yeah, right?
So, How do you find peace, or how did you find peace then, and how do you continue to find peace now?
So this so back then, I didn't find peace very well. I really couldn't find peace. I didn't know what it meant to I wasn't evolved back then. I don't think I was very involved in my 20s. I mean, I was always someone who thought of the big picture, wanted peace on earth, and cared for others. Wasn't I believed in it? Someone else always believed in equality for humans. So I had, I think, a good integrity, but I didn't know how to find peace within myself. It would just overwhelm me, and I would just. And I even think of when I would go to bed. I think I would overwhelm myself on purpose to like tire my brain out, so I would like eventually fall asleep. I feel like that's something I did, and it was really unhealthy. And also, I hope you don't make this is a little forward too. I can be open here, right? I can.
Yeah.
So I used to. I mean, when I was in my 20s, I used to. I probably drank too much. Yeah, and I used to use that as an escape.
Yeah.
I would, because it numbs your mind, and I really hated how that progressed within me. Like because I would like get nervous before I would drink because like oh, I'm gonna feel terrible the next day, and I would like I don't want to feel like this, and I kept on going through this battle with myself like every weekend and every time I would drink, and eventually I put us. I'm kind of a 0 to 60 kind of guy. Unfortunately, I'm either in or I'm out, and I need to work on that. That's what I try to work on with my wife, and so I stopped. I stopped about a little over 6 years ago now, and just I felt like it was so that I think internally I always desired peace within myself. And I felt like that was holding me back, like it
Mm.
was limiting my involvement. I wasn't reading, I wasn't doing anything of purpose. I would just I have a tough week, and then Friday comes and Saturday comes, and you have a few drinks, and it's weekend's over, and it's Sunday, and I'm back to where I started. I couldn't that repetitive process. Interesting, actually. Yeah, that repetitive process helped me, I guess, find peace because I didn't want to do it anymore. It was like I felt like I was just like I can't live like this, and I feel terrible all the time. So I stopped it, maybe feel better, and when I stopped, also, um, it it gave me the ability to evolve, and so I was able to analyze my psychology more, and I liked that. I was like, huh, all right, now my brain. I felt like my brain was working differently, firing differently,
Yep.
and that's how I started evolving now into how I think about peace. I believe is that I have to take a time, like Saturday and Sunday mornings. I have a little routine where you're gonna laugh at me. So I make like a little tray for myself with like a champagne glass full of orange juice. No, not a mimosa, just orange juice.
Oranges.
And yeah, and a coffee and like a croissant. Like a little setting that's like it to me it looks perfect. It's a little elegant setting. I have that in my journal, and I write about how I feel. I write about the week. I write about how I'm feeling, and just I'm like I feel like this because of this. I acted this way because of this, and I just kind of walk myself through it. And I have like this little page. It's like I read like I think 50 lines to myself, and they're like little lines of like I have to like make equations for myself.
Okay.
Like obsessing about a non-virtuous enterprise is not intelligent, and I am intelligent because I am analyzing my psychology. Like I have to write things like that for myself and read them. So that's like my routine, but it brings peace for me because I just walk myself through it, and by the end of it, I feel more at ease. I'm accepting reality, wanting to change reality, and wanting to feel like I want to, get my. It makes me want to work harder at my books. I want to spread a message of peace, a vision of peace to a population of the world, and so it motivates me. So that's really how I try to get peace. But I'm constantly trying to evolve new processes. Like that's like I say to myself that an evolved human realizes they can never stop evolving.
Right.
It's never
I'm
over.
a lifelong learner. I am
Yeah,
a lifelong learner
yeah.
myself, so
Like,
it's
good about yeah, we're on the same page. It's hard to do because you're like, I need to be more open about this. I shouldn't be judgmental, and everyone's judgmental. We've all done something, been judged. It's we shouldn't, but we do. It's part of life. And so I always try to think of that. I'm like, I should be more open about a topic, or I should be Shouldn't be so quick to think a certain way. That's I guess evolvement to me is peace. That it makes me feel
Nice.
better about myself that I'm always on the lookout to improve myself. And there's a lot of improvements to make too. Like I was,
There is
yeah,
always a lot of improvements
yeah,
to make,
yeah.
and on that note, how do you bring peace to others?
So
So as you're working on peace, bringing peace into your own
yeah,
life, into your own self, how do you also reflect that back or bring that
sure.
to others?
So I think so. I do that in two ways. Well, is that so? If I'm just like most of my interaction with people is through um, my what I do with my book, and then professionally. Those are my really only two interactions with people. I don't do a lot of socializing.
You don't do a lot of people stuff.
No, other than that, like I don't really try to socialize too much. Like,
Fair, but still, when you're working
yeah. So
with promoting
yeah,
your book and with
sure.
at work, how do you bring people or peace to people?
Good one. So I think when I interact with people at work, I just try to like if something's stressful going on at work, like if there's a project we're doing, people are stressed. Like I'll try to be open with people. I'm like, look, yeah, this is a tough one we're dealing with, and I know this piece of the situation that we need to get solved. You know this piece. Let's at least come together. I'll work with you specifically. Let's have a lot of people don't like to have a phone call. I'll like let's just talk real quick. Let's walk through a situation. And look, I'm not here to demand something from you. I'm here to make you feel that you're in a place where I will help you. And when I do that, the other person that I need information from will help me as well. And so we like bring peace to each other just by, hey, we're just here to solve a situation that is, sometimes there's a lot of pressure. And the more relaxed we are about it, the more like, okay, we've got a little bit of a crunch time here to get this problem solved. But the more that we just agree to accept what we're in and help each other, the better we'll feel, the more, and then the solution will most likely get solved. Sometimes not, but
Right, but
hopefully it will. That's how my professional life, how I try to bring peace to people. And then I guess, well, and then socially, my social life, and I said I don't really socialize much, but I guess my social life is really mostly just my wife. So in with my wife and I really try to just ask how you feel today, and then she'll ask me the same question. We'll have like time where we're interacting and saying, yeah, I'm having a bit of a trouble. I'm having trouble today. This is just bothering me, and we'll try to walk ourselves through it. Walk ourselves why I feel this way I do today, and what can we do, and always like with a solution, a plan, maybe not a solution. Like, okay, well, I've been feeling like this because of this. Maybe we should try to do this different. Maybe we should go for a walk after work to get our minds free and become more at peace. And it works. When we take like a walk, and we don't want to. We want to just like after work, sit and do nothing and recoup. Just
right,
veg out. It's just, of course, it's standard stuff. But I noticed that if on Friday we start doing like, we haven't doing as much as we should, but we'll like, all right, look, this Friday we're going for a picnic. I'll bring this little picnic basket. We got this little picnic basket, and we go to this park, and we'll just have a little dinner. And it washes away. It's out in this forest, and it washes away reality a little. It just brings us to a place of harmony, and nature does that for us.
yeah,
That's my social, how I bring peace to people. This is just my wife, not many other people. And then other aspect of it, I think how I'm more engaged socially is through my book. When I'm I try to meet people through my book, and I actually send books, free copies, like all over the world. So I'll meet people through Instagram, and we'll develop a rapport. And like, look, if you would like, I'll send you a free book. And I always say, I enjoy doing that. And I don't want anything in return. This is a gift. I don't want a review. I don't want anything. It's for you to enjoy whenever you feel like you want to. Give it away. Do whatever you want with it. And that makes me happy because the message in the book is about achieving world peace. And it's a very controversial book, but it is about the vision, what it is centered around the need for world peace, equality, and true love. And that is what I truly believe my purpose is. I mean, I've made that my purpose, is to spread that message. And so that's what I do, is like my spare time, I push this book and try to get people engaged with it. And that is that brings me peace, because I have a purpose. I think very similar to your good show you have here, is that you bring peace to others too by your show. That's how you reach people,
Yes.
and that's like, as the quiet healer is to Janice, in the beginning is to Nick Girard. There's two things that we want people to be involved in. If you want to be a part of it and watch, and you want to be a part of it and read, it makes us happy, because we're just here to talk about peace and be non-judgmental, accepting. That's yeah, that's how I try to bring peace to others for sure.
Wonderful. Now, I have an interesting question.
Oh, good, good, good.
So, for me, and just in my brain's capacity, you
Sure.
have In the Beginning, which is very much kind of like Old Testament.
Yes,
Is
yes.
there going to be a sequel?
So that's I want there to be. So, and it kind of how I've broken up this book. So there's like the first half is the Old Testament, the second half is like the New Testament, but it's a complete rewrite.
Right.
So the first part is like building the world and how humans were invented a completely different way. And the second part is like is the result of a challenge between God and the devil, and bringing two humans in present day together through traumatic events and forcing them to make a choice to either rule heaven or hell. Ultimately, will decide the resting place for all the souls in existence. So there is a sequel to that, but the unfortunate part, as we kind of were touching on earlier, is that like I can't do it until I get this book off the ground. And when I mean off the ground, I mean I need to sell a lot of copies of the book to just write and do nothing else. And it's working, but it's like a tortoise. Like, I'm a self-published author, and obviously I would, hey Michael, obviously I want to be published mainstream and huge, but I mean I don't mind saying this to you. I've been rejected by 118 literary agents. And I don't know if we can talk about that process a little bit if you want, but it's really hard to get a literary agent. Is
It's extremely hard to get a literary agent.
and
It really is.
I respect their process. Like I get it. Like they've got an author who works and who sells, and they need to make money too. And so they kind of push their authors that they have. And to bring on a new author, it's extremely risky. It's extremely expensive. I understand. So I'm not saying that they're not good at what they're doing. I understand the position they're in. They're like the broker. They're like a real estate broker of the literary world. They're matching up a buyer and seller, and they stick with what brings them commissions. And I understand. So I only finished this book like when I was writing transit, and then after I wrote in transit, I typed it all out and then started revising each draft. And it took me like 17 drafts. It was a lot. It took me a long time. The biggest part when I was able to finish it was when we moved from the suburbs of Philadelphia to Florida, to Boca Raton, Florida. And we were there. We moved a little. It was kind of an immature move. My wife and I probably like to move to solve problems, and that's not very intelligent.
Not always, but sometimes that leap is
Yeah,
important.
I agree. It's very important. I agree. I think people should do it, but we moved hastily, and so I moved into a job with a guy I used to work with in New York. He's a great guy, and quite honestly, they were more advanced than I was. I wasn't good enough to do what they did in the financial world. I wasn't, and I could. They were really great, but I quit after 2 months of being there, and that was pretty risky for us. Like we don't have the money to quit a job that we just started. Like that's ridiculous. But so 6 months, I was unemployed in Boca Raton, and my wife was finishing her master's in Philadelphia, still living with her parents. We had a tiny little apartment in Boca, and I had no job, and we had a very limited amount of savings, and so it was just getting depleted. And I'm looking for work, and when I wasn't looking for work, I would write, and I just would write. I woke up at I was great. I woke up at 7-ish, and it would just write for 8 hours a day, and I would do nothing else. I mean, I'm not trying to be crass, but I would drink water, go to the bathroom, and write. That's all I would do. It's also, but that model worked for me. I was kind of became insane, just writing this little apartment and doing nothing else, in the sunny Florida, not really doing anything. And it was 6 months of doing that, but that's what got my book finished. And so I don't really have my wife and I don't have the freedom to do that again. And we really didn't have freedom to do that back then either. But I mean, that's what I need. Like, I need pure interrupted time to write another book. And yeah, so the long, so
The long story is, yes, you want a sequel.
yes, I want a sequel, but I can't do it right now. But
That's okay. Remember Stephen King, it took him a while and everything
that's
that he went through, if you know Stephen King's
yeah,
story, and
that
he
is
actually had to do the pen name
that's true.
he did the pen name for a couple of books.
You are right. I do remember reading that.
And he and his wife didn't have a lot of money. They lived in a trailer in Salem. So
I don't think I knew that piece of it. I feel like I
yeah.
really,
Yep. And he really didn't hit his stride and be successful until his late 30s, early 40s.
yeah, interesting. It's
If that gives you any, hope, happiness coming your way.
it does, actually. Yeah, that's a good piece of perspective you just gave me. Um, you're right, yeah, it's like, yeah, you wanna do what you care about, you're just sometimes stuck for a little while, but managing that in your head is really hard. That's why we need peace. You need unique peace and your own version of how to get it, it's tough. Yeah.
Well, that's what makes it unique is everyone
Yeah,
finds their own way and their
yeah,
own coming to terms with peace, and
yeah,
so
yeah, there's no right
mm,
answer. I like that you said that before. And I saw another lady said that on your show too. I forget, I think it was Patricia, um, the lady that you had recently. She said
she was
something.
one of yeah, Patricia is,
Yeah,
before, Lorraine,
okay.
but
Yeah,
she
have to
was
find it within yourself. Yeah, like, it's there, you have to find it. Like, there's no answer that someone's gonna give you to find your own internal peace. It's like a journey you have to take, and it's difficult. It's
it
hard.
no one said it was easy.
Yeah, right?
Sometimes it's downright hard, and that's the truth of, the matter in a lot of things in life.
Yeah. Why is everything so, like, everything is difficult. If you want something, it's difficult. That's how it is. It's just
Well,
how can I s yeah.
commitment plus determination
Yeah,
equals success.
you're right. You're right.
And that's anything we do, including finding peace. If you are determined and committed to finding peace, you will find it.
That's true. Well said. Really well said, Janice. I think that's what I didn't wanna accept for a long time, was what you just said, was that I didn't like taking the first step to start that process was really, for me, it was extremely difficult. I just couldn't understand how things weren't going my way or different, and I didn't want to. I guess you need a lot of courage to take a step to find it within yourself. You have to be brave. It's like that. Maybe some people, I would be embarrassed to say that too. As a younger man, I would be like, "Oh, not." I guess I wouldn't feel masculine about that, and it's a ridiculous way to think. Like,
It is.
yeah, yeah, completely.
Even from a feminine side, it is.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the way people grow up and the way people are conditioned, and it does, it's easier to seek outside validation than it is
Mhm.
to seek inside validation.
Well said. Yeah,
It really is. It's like, "Oh, you like me. Okay, great. And you like me. Okay, great." And then life becomes that popularity contest, and so
yeah.
many people are unhappy with themselves because now it's a facade. You're putting
Mm,
I have to show up a certain way rather than myself. And
yeah.
it took myself a long time to accept that
Mhm, mhm. It's
because you never really feel like I never really felt throughout grade school into high school. I didn't really feel like I felt in anywhere. Then I
mhm.
get to college and I purposely went to an out of state college. I went to where
I
nobody
do.
knows me, and I got to be me.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's where my best friends are. I have some friends from high school and everything
Mhm,
that really know me, but it
mhm.
wasn't until college where it's like, "This is me. Take it or
Yeah.
leave it. I don't have time for this. I gotta pass this class." I think that helped me a lot. It's like,
Oh.
I was very determined, it's like
We're pretty similar. Like, I did a very similar path as you did. Like, I grew up in kind of a small town, and I got out of there. Like, I mean, the place I came from was good people. My family was encouraging. I went to I wasn't very. I had a hard time. I think, like, from sixth grade to from sixth grade to my junior year of high school was not a good time for me. Like,
it's
I was
those are rough.
yeah, and I was kind of I was bullied and picked on, and because I'm a kind of a very emotional guy, a little too emotional. This is really embarrassing too, but I cry really easily. It's really kind of weird. Like and I would just, and I come from my background is kind of like we were a bit sheltered as children, and so like we joke, my wife was out going to concerts when she was a teenager, like seeing I don't know 9 Inch Nails, and I'm watching like
I can
Land.
hang with your wife.
Well, she's doing that. And I'm watching like Land Before Time 9 with my sisters, and like
Okay, yeah,
it's so like
it's a
you
little
ever
different.
remember that movie Blast from the Past with Brendan
Yes.
Fraser? So when I went to college, my buddies used to say I was like that guy because like, oh, how swell to see you, sir. You know, like I was kind of not very,
Everything was new.
yeah, I wasn't very worldly. I wasn't very, you know, and so but similar to you, when I got to college, that's when I became myself. I like people were just it was fresh and accepting, and it wasn't. It was a great like my best friends are from college, and like
Mhm.
the people I love them. Like the guys I'm with and the other people I've come in contact with, like we're real still good friends to this day. And it was just a fresh start. And a couple people that in my more group of friends came from a maybe made fun of a bit too. And it wasn't like that. We were just we were encouraging, and we were bonded, and it was not a very judgmental atmosphere. And that's when I started becoming more finding who I was and accepting who I was, But it took me to move like you to like a place where no one's ever heard of. No one's ever heard of college. I was at a small school called Allegheny. It's like an hour and a half north of Pittsburgh. And from Washington State, like I was like, I think they wanted me to. I think the only reason I got accepted, I didn't have very good grades growing up. I think the only reason I was accepted because like I was the most diverse person
They
that
could
they
find.
had. Yeah, like in the middle of Pennsylvania, it's like it's not really not that diverse at the school,
No.
and they're like, oh, this guy's from Washington. Yeah, that's some real diversity. you know, it was kind of it was silly, but yeah, that's when I started kind of getting more into touch who I was, But it took a long time. I'm still trying to figure it out, but
It does take a long
yeah,
time, and the, constant wanting to learn and evolve,
sure,
you learn new ways of what brings you peace, like, "Oh, I didn't think of that, and that helps."
yeah,
And, "Oh, I could use this, and that helps." And you add to your toolbox, and again, it's specific to you
yeah,
and what works for you.
yeah, yeah, very true. And you learn, I think, when you move to new cities, new areas, I think that's really healthy because you learn that every city has a different culture.
Yeah.
Every has a new way of doing things. Like when I moved my first one to college, like people referred to things that I refer to differently. They talk
Yep.
differently. They had different foods and different holiday traditions, and it was fascinating because you're like, that's how you do something, and you take different advice that you would have never heard if you stayed stagnant. Not that everyone's stagnant in one area, but some people are, and you just grow more by being around different groups and different areas of the world. It's fascinating to like you want to be in a different area. Like, oh, this is how you do things. Oh, well, that's a better process than I had. I'll take your process with how I make eggs or take the trash out or how I talk to people in a certain way. It's you just evolve by meeting new people in different areas. It's fun. It helps you grow a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
And that also when you go to a college out of state
Mhm.
or far away from home, it helps you grow. I
Yeah,
recently had a friend whose daughter is like, she wants to go anywhere out of state. She doesn't want to be anywhere near her, and she's
cool.
really struggling with it. And I told my friend, I was
Yeah,
like, "Listen, as somebody who has been there and
yeah.
has done that, let her."
Good advice. Yeah,
And she was very off put by it. "What do you mean, let her? Really?" I
mm,
go, "You will fight more with her if you ask her to stay home.
mm.
Neither one of you will grow. When she's out on her own and she has to make it work, she will appreciate you and everything you've done for her more."
Yes, good advice, Jess.
And and she I think she was like, "Oh, 'cause
Yeah,
you want your kids to stay near you." It's like, "Oh my go
yeah.
away."
Experience life. Yeah, do it. Yeah, you have to grow. Yeah. Like, you're right. When you get to a new area and you're on your own, like, you are instantly growing up. Like, I mean, you're like, okay, well, I need to pay my rent and I need to pay my bills and I've got to get a job. I got to do that right now. I got to get out there, meet people to do that. Like, you just instantly grow, and it's so healthy for your brain. I mean, it's like, I mean, you just immediately start evolving, and I mean, you said it so well. You can't, like, you have to encourage that. You don't want it. Yeah, I can totally see that as a parent, but it's the best for your child. Like, they have to learn new things, be around new people to grow for themselves. Yeah, good. I'm glad you said that to your friend. That's like, that's and a
Yeah,
tough thing to say too.
it's a
You know?
tough thing to say, but as
Yeah.
somebody who has gone through it, and I'm a big believer in people, place, and time, it's like, okay,
Ah.
she needed to hear that at that time because it's gonna continue
Mm.
to be an issue. It's like, let her
Sure.
go away. After a year, she may say, "You know what? I need to come home," or she may say, "I'm on my way, ma,"
Yeah.
and but as a parent, you have to find peace with that, and that's not necessarily
Mm.
easy because now it's like, okay, the whole point of being a parent is to raise them to have roots, but let them fly.
Sure.
It's the letting them fly that is hard,
Sure. Yeah. How can it not be? Yeah.
uh, but you also have to find peace, and my grandmother said it best when she said, "You there comes a point when you kick them out of the nest and trust that you've raised them right."
Yeah. Yeah.
And that
You're
is correct. You're like,
right.
I tell my child all the time, like, when he doesn't wanna do his chores or something, like, "I have to release you in the wild in 2 years. Can you work with me here?"
Yeah, you are right. Good for you. That's a you're on the right track. I mean, it's good hearing that someone like yourself
So,
thinks that.
when you go back and you were discussing your 20s and
Yeah.
how it wasn't a peaceful time, it was a very chaotic time, that makes sense because 'cause you're still trying to discover who you are and at the same time try and find peace with
Yeah.
who you are.
Yeah. And imagine if I
And
didn't do that. I'd probably, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't be a good place if I didn't have those experiences. If I didn't have like those hard times. Like if I was, maybe living rent free somewhere at my parents still or something. I wouldn't have grown. Like you need that. Find yourself on your own. Like it's tough. You know how to. Yeah, you know. I know you know. Yeah, it's tough, but healthy. Ultimately healthy for us. Yeah, I
yeah.
like that.
So, having discovered, like, all these new and exciting ways to find peace within yourself, um, what would you like if a client came to you and it's like, and you know they are stressed out, or a coworker came to you and you know they're stressed out? What's in your toolbox to say, okay, we got 10 minutes before this presentation and you need to calm down.
Mm,
Let's try
yeah,
this.
yeah. So we have to like kind of present a lot for work. Well, actually, not in my current role as much, but my past role, we did like it was a lot of presentations. So it was financial sales, and yeah, when you have a big presentation, there's something not going right, and people are getting stressed. How do we like? We've got to come to terms with this. Okay, we're on. And it's like,
We're on. Let's go.
like how I used to do it is we, the group I worked with, like we were pretty we're I mean we're pretty tight. We were with each other all the time, and I like to have conversations about what we really want to do in life and bond over what we're doing now and how much we hate it. Like we're like, look, this sucks. Okay, like this presentation is going to be terrible. Like I know that they may not like what we're going to tell them about something. We're going to try to avoid this topic. We're going to try to tell them this. And look, it is what it is. What's going on? What's going on this last weekend? Let's relate to a story that we bonded over recently and talked about. Like, what we'd rather be doing right now? I don't know, scuba diving or climbing up a hill, anything. Or we would talk about what we liked in life, or how we wanted to live. Like it always came back to living simply, or simply, maybe that's not a word. Living in moderation, like with like um, not many possessions, not things, and just be having a simple, modest life where I'm not breaking my back doing something terrible I don't want to do, and just being in nature more. And when I would have those kind of conversations with people, people opened up, and it bonded us. And then when we were and it would get to a stressful situation, we kind of just be like, look, we're prepared with this. It is what it is. Let's go and do this, and that's it. And we wouldn't be, we wouldn't be sloppy. I would call myself a fine-tuned individual at work. I don't want to be, but I am. So I have to,
Yeah.
and that's, so we would work hard at that, but we'd be more apt to work hard because we were bonded over what we thought our overall goal in life was, what we really wanted to how the world should be. So the more I had those conversations with people, the more you feel more comfortable with that person, like what you think the world really should be like. And everyone was we were all on the same page, and most people are. I think a lot of people are, is they want peace and just a nice atmosphere for everyone. We all want to get along. We don't want violence. We don't want war and inequality and these terrible things to happen. And when you relate to another human like that, it opens it up, and you start caring about each other. Yeah, and back to empathy. You're like, yeah, I want you to feel better. I want what you want. Like, I want you to care about me, and I care about you. Like, I honestly do. And you would feel that with the other person, and it helped. It helps us come to peace for a stressful situation. Not always, I mean, but that's how I would approach it. If we were bonded in how we believe the world should be, that bond carried over to a stressful, pressurized, pressure cooker work situation. It's weird in the financial world. There's an emergency and no one's dying, but it's a huge emergency. Oh my God. And there's like people that are on your back, like cracking the whip, like, why don't you do this answer here? And you're like, okay. And the way people talk to you is, I write about that a lot in the book, actually. It's like the way I've been spoken to many different ways over the years. And so is my wife. And that's a big difficulty for me, is that when people treat you in the workforce like a subservient human being because of your title.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife is a big part of the book is about my wife. It's how our treatment in New York. And she was an executive assistant and worked for a lot of great people. She also worked for a lot of people
Not
that
right people.
mistreated her. Yeah. And that really bothered me it really bothered me. I mean, what am I going to do? Obviously, and I wrote about that. There's a pretty intense story of how I wrote that in the book, of like me, what I would really want to do is, I'm not a violent person, but sometimes the way people talk to my wife, it would be terrible. And I would want to go to that office and I physically harm the person that did that. And that's wrong. Like, no, I don't believe in physical harm, but it would be so enraged that someone would choose to not treat my wife as an equal because of her position.
Yeah.
And it was always a man. And I cannot stand it when a man.
It's unfortunate, but true.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but true.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, there's good people and bad people. Good people believe in equality. Bad people do not. And a lot of bad people are men. And a lot of it is control. And a lot of is a big thing for men that are bad, and a lot of controlling women and belittling people. And I just couldn't handle that. And so I think did I get really off topic? Oh my God. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I get a little excited, but yeah, I think
It's okay.
oh
It's
my
it's
God.
just finding relating to
Yes.
others
Yes.
helps
Thanks for
you.
bringing it back on track. Yes.
Um,
That's what brings me on track, when I relate to people and then bring that you're just bonded in life because you agree you have the same values and integrity about a peaceful way of existence for humans. And then that just naturally transfers over to like a pressure situation or anything. It's just talking what you think about life. And everyone likes to think about humans living together in peace. It sounds beautiful. I love it. It sounds beautiful. I
absolutely.
I think of like the space station, like the International Space Station a lot. And they're out there in space, and who's up there? If you look at the history of all the countries that have been there, you got Russia, China, and the United States are the big countries up there. Just working together, using science, sharing knowledge. And I'm sure they look down, at the world sometimes. They're like, yeah, I wish it could be like it is up here. We're just sharing knowledge and living in here, hanging out. And it's it's how the world should be, and when that's, talk like about that, and everyone bonds and relates to that. So that's what helps. I think people just come together. They think like that. Yeah. Thanks for bringing me back on track. Look at
Beautiful.
this.
So we'll put a link
Oh yeah.
to purchase Nick's book in the beginning in the comment section so that you can click it, check it out, purchase it if you so choose. I think you will find it interesting because it's always good to look at different perspectives, and everybody has source material.
Yeah.
We just we do, and that's for any creative field. So it's like this was your source material. We'll take a look
Yeah, exactly.
and others can as well. I want to
Thank you.
thank you, Nick, for
Thank
being
you, Janice.
on
Yeah.
and taking moments out of your Sunday morning to discuss peace with us.
No,
Thank
thank you.
you.
And look, it's a pleasure being here. You've got a great show. Like what you do, and I mean, I love what Michael and I had discussion we had. This discussion is great. We need more people like yourself doing this. So please keep up the good work. This is important work. What you're doing, like you've helped me understand myself this morning. More. It's helpful. We're putting this pace and time and taking advantage of it together. So thank you. Great show. Great work.
Thank you. I'm going to put you in the green room. 1 second.
Thanks, Janice.
So, again, thank you everyone this morning for joining us. I have Jacob Cooper on next week. He is an author, a licensed social worker, and he's going to discuss how he found peace through his near-death experience. We'll discuss how that forever changed his life and how he finds peace and brings peace to others. I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.